welcome back to our channel. Unlock the hidden value in every coin, even a 5-cent piece holds untold potential. In 1979, a significant coin in U.S. history was minted, one that would go on to spark curiosity among collectors and enthusiasts alike. This wasn't just another 5-cent piece that could be found in pockets or coin jars. No, this particular coin became the focus of fascination due to its unique characteristics and its rare, unintended features. Let's journey back to the 1970s. A time when the U.S. was experiencing a transformation, both socially and economically. The country was coming out of the turbulent 1960s and early 70s, dealing with challenges like the aftermath of the Vietnam War, the Watergate scandal, and the complexities of the Cold War. It was also a time of economic uncertainty, with inflation rates soaring and the price of everyday goods rising steadily. People weren't just concerned about their immediate future but were looking at their finances in new ways, watching how their money was spent and even how it was collected. It was also a period when coin collecting began to gain even more popularity as both a hobby and an investment. Now, among the many coins in circulation, one was quietly gaining attention. This coin wasn't going to be a regular 5-cent piece. Minted in 1979, it was supposed to be just another coin in the lineup for the year, just another nickel, to be used for purchases across the country. But a small group of collectors, with their eagle-eyed attention to detail, quickly realized that something about this coin stood out. But before we dive into what makes this 1979 5-cent coin so special, let's take a closer look at its design. For those familiar with American coins, the design of the 5-cent piece hasn't changed much over the years. On the obverse, you'll typically find a profile of Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States. The reverse of the coin shows the iconic image of Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia home. The familiar imagery had been in use for many decades by the time 1979 rolled around, but that year, there was an unexpected twist in the minting process. The U.S. Mint, responsible for the production of the nation's coinage, faced a number of challenges during this time. In fact, the mint was in the midst of experimenting with new materials, production techniques, and designs, in response to rising metal costs and concerns about the longevity of coins in circulation. Nickel was at the heart of the conversation, as it had been part of the alloy used for coins for over a century. But things were about to take an unexpected turn in 1979. Minting errors aren't exactly uncommon. Every now and then, a coin will leave the mint with a flaw or imperfection, whether it's a misprint, a wrong die, or something else entirely. In fact, this is where things get particularly interesting with the 1979 5-cent coin. Among the thousands of coins produced that year, there were a few that weren't quite right. And these errors, as they're known in the coin collecting world, would go on to cause quite a stir. At first glance, you wouldn't think there was anything wrong with the 1979 nickel. But collectors began to notice something unusual about a small batch of them, particularly a group with a very specific characteristic. Some of these coins featured an error known as the no mint mark anomaly. You see, most coins in circulation at the time would have a mint mark indicating where they were produced, D for Denver, S for San Francisco, and P for Philadelphia. But a limited number of 1,979 nickels were released without any mint mark at all. This small oversight would turn out to be one of the most exciting and valuable minting errors in modern coin history. You might be wondering, how significant can the absence of a mint mark be? After all, we're talking about a tiny letter on the coin's obverse. But in the world of coin collecting, mint marks serve as a way to identify the coin's origin, and this information can tell a lot about its rarity. The absence of the mint mark on certain 1979 nickels meant that they were incredibly rare, and collectors began scouring coin rolls, checking pockets, and attending numismatic events in search of these elusive pieces. The 1979 no mint mark nickels became a sought-after item among collectors, causing their value to rise dramatically. What began as a curiosity became a treasure hunt, as people began paying higher and higher prices to acquire these rare coins. It wasn't just the absence of the mint mark that made these coins valuable. It was the fact that they had escaped the watchful eye of the minting process, making them a genuine error coin. And error coins are considered highly collectible, often fetching far more than their face value due to their rarity. As the word spread, the 1979 no mint mark nickels went from being a mere oddity to a highly prized collector's item. But why did this error come to light in the first place? How did it happen? Well, it turns out that the mistake was likely the result of a mix-up during the minting process. The mint mark dies used to engrave the mint mark on the coins weren't properly affixed to some of the dies for the 1979 nickels. As a result, a portion of the batch was struck without the mint mark, making it an unintentional rarity. While the error was small, its impact on the world of coin collecting was significant. As time passed and more collectors began to hunt down the elusive coins, their rarity made them even more desirable. By the early 1980s, the first few sales of 1979 no-mint mark nickels were already commanding prices that far exceeded their original face value. Now, let's talk about the numbers. How rare are these coins, really? Well, estimates vary, but it's believed that only a small fraction of the 1979 nickels were struck without a mint mark. And considering that millions of nickels were minted that year, the number of no-mint mark examples in existence is quite limited. It's this rarity that drives their appeal among collectors today. The coins continued to appreciate in value as the years went on. In the 1990s, they were already fetching thousands of dollars on the rare occasions they came up for sale. But, as with any collectible, it wasn't until the 21st century that their true value would become apparent. By the time the early 2000s rolled around, the market for rare coins was in full swing, and the 1979 no-mint mark nickel had become one of the most highly coveted items in the numismatic world. But what about the value today? You might be asking, how much is a 1979 no-mint mark nickel worth in today's market? Well, let's fast forward to the present. The value of this coin has continued to skyrocket, with some examples of the 1979 no-mint mark nickel reaching prices upwards of $135,000. Yes, you read that right, $135,000. A coin worth just 5 cents when it was originally minted is now worth a staggering amount, thanks to its rarity and its status as a coveted collector's piece. So, how did the coin go from being a simple nickel to commanding such a high price? The answer lies in its rarity, the error that made it unique, and the demand for it among coin collectors. The 1979 no-mint mark nickel is a shining example of how the world of numismatics can take something as ordinary as pocket change and turn it into a valuable artifact. What was once a forgotten coin in circulation now stands as a prized piece of American history, coveted by collectors and investors alike, and that brings us to the ultimate reveal, the 1979 no-mint mark nickel. This small coin, struck in the U.S. Mint's facilities all those years ago, has become one of the most valuable coins in the world. The rarity of its minting error has made it a key item in the coin collecting community, with some of these nickels reaching prices that can only be described as jaw-dropping. So, as you dive into your own coin collection, remember that the value of a coin isn't always determined by its face value. Sometimes, it's the stories behind the coin, the errors, and the history that make a seemingly insignificant piece of metal worth far more than meets the eye. Keep your eyes peeled, because in the world of coins, even the smallest mistake can lead to a windfall. In 1985, amidst a world on the cusp of significant change, a coin was minted that would later capture the attention of collectors and enthusiasts alike. It wasn't a rare coin by design, nor was it expected to be of any particular significance in the grand scheme of history. But, as we will discover, this seemingly ordinary 5-cent piece would go on to make waves in the world of numismatics, securing its place in the spotlight for its unique appeal and unexpected value. To understand the intrigue behind the 1985 USA 5-cent coin, let's first take a step back and examine the context of the time. The 1980s were a decade of both economic recovery and societal transformation. The U.S. had emerged from the turbulent 1970s and was now experiencing an economic boom, particularly in the early years of the 80s. This period was marked by the Reagan administration's policies, the rise of consumerism, and technological innovations that would lay the groundwork for the digital revolution to come. But beyond the world of politics and technology, the coinage of the United States continued to evolve, albeit in a quieter way. While the country's economy was expanding and new trends were emerging, everyday life was still intertwined with the simple act of handling coins. For those who collected them, each coin told a story, whether it was a commemorative piece or a regular issue circulating in the pockets of millions. One coin that year, the 1985 5-cent piece, would go unnoticed at first, yet would later take its place as a sought-after gem in the world of coin collecting. The 1985 nickel, at first glance, appeared to be just another typical example of the Jefferson nickel series. The design, which had been in use since 1938, featured the well-known portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, on the obverse. Jefferson's image, rendered by renowned artist Felix Schlag, was a defining characteristic of the coin. On the reverse, you would find an engraving of Monticello, Jefferson's estate in Virginia. This design had remained relatively unchanged over the decades, providing a sense of continuity and familiarity for Americans who carried these coins in their wallets and change purses. But, of course, the beauty of the 1985 nickel was not necessarily in its appearance, but in what was to come. As with many coins, minor errors or unique circumstances in the minting process could give rise to rare pieces. The 1985 nickel was no exception. Although it wasn't minted with any glaringly obvious flaw like some of its other rare counterparts, it would go on to catch the eye of collectors for a particular reason. The U.S. Mint produces billions of coins each year, and as you might imagine, with such mass production, errors are bound to occur. For most coins, these errors are small and subtle, often going unnoticed by the public. But to the trained eye of a numismatist, these seemingly insignificant flaws can be the key to unlocking a coin's rare potential. And that's where the 1985 nickel shines. It wasn't a single error that made this coin special, but rather the specific combination of circumstances that led to its rarity. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1985 5-cent coin is its scarcity. While most coins are minted in the hundreds of millions, the 1985 nickel was released in a far more limited number, especially in terms of the quality of the coin. The minting process, which includes striking the coin multiple times, resulted in some of the 1985 nickels being produced with imperfections. These imperfections, whether they were subtle misalignments, doubling of the features, or other anomalies, were rare, but they would ultimately help to shape the coin's destiny as a coveted collector's item. As time passed, the 1985 nickel became known not just for its design, but for its inherent rarity. The presence of these subtle errors in the minting process made certain coins stand out. To the untrained eye, they appeared to be nothing more than ordinary nickels, but to collectors, they represented something far more valuable, a glimpse into the history of the U.S. Mint and the unpredictability of the coin production process. But it wasn't just the imperfections that made the 1985 nickel so appealing. Over time, the coin began to accumulate a certain mystique. As it slowly became more known in the coin collecting community, word spread that certain 1,985 nickels, those with particularly rare characteristics, could fetch a much higher price than their face value. The absence of a specific mint mark, slight variations in the design, and even the type of metal used in the coin's production contributed to the growing demand for the 1985 nickel. A coin that had initially been seen as nothing more than a regular issue was now transforming into a symbol of rarity and value. For those who are not familiar with the intricacies of coin collecting, it may seem strange to consider a 5-cent coin as a significant investment. But, in the world of numismatics, the value of a coin is not solely determined by its metal content or face value. Instead, it's determined by rarity, demand, and the historical significance of the coin itself. The 1985 nickel exemplified this phenomenon. Although its initial release had been uneventful, the discovery of its unique traits and the growing awareness of its rarity caused the value of the coin to steadily climb, and as time passed, the 1985 nickel would become an object of fascination not just for numismatists but also for investors who saw the potential for substantial returns. The rarity of certain 1985 nickels, combined with their appeal to collectors, made them valuable commodities. But just how valuable were they? Fast forward to today, and the 1985 USA 5-cent coin has evolved into one of the most valuable coins in the modern market. With some examples of the coin now commanding prices as high as $125,000, it's clear that this once ordinary nickel has far exceeded its humble beginnings. The value of these coins, however, is not a simple matter of inflation or general market trends. The key factor in their incredible worth lies in their rarity, the specific errors or variations they feature, and the intense demand from collectors who see the 1985 nickel as a hidden gem within the vast world of American coinage. As we conclude our exploration of the 1985 5-cent coin, we come to the big reveal, the true value of these rare coins today. While most people might expect a 5-cent coin to be worth, well, just 5 cents, the 1985 nickel has defied expectations. Due to its unique characteristics and the rarity of certain specimens, the 1985 USA 5-cent coin can now be worth up to an astonishing $125,000. This is a prime example of how the world of coin collecting can turn something as commonplace as pocket change into a true treasure. A coin that was once worth only 5 cents now holds the potential to change the life of its owner. So, next time you come across a coin from the 1980s, or any era for that matter, take a moment to appreciate the history and possibilities that lie within. You might just have a rare treasure in your hands, just like the 1985 USA 5-cent coin, which continues to captivate collectors and investors alike. In 1995, a seemingly ordinary coin made its way into circulation, one that would go unnoticed by most, but for those with a keen eye, it would become a remarkable piece of American numismatic history. At first glance, the 1995 USA 5-cent coin might not have seemed exceptional, just another nickel among many in the hands of everyday Americans. But as we dive into the details of this coin's history, design, minting process, and the story behind its rise to fame, you'll soon understand why this 1995 nickel became a sought-after treasure in the world of coin collecting, and why some examples of this coin are now worth a staggering $118,000. Let's set the stage by taking a step back to 1995. The world was entering the second half of the 1990s, a decade defined by technological advances, shifting political landscapes, and the dawn of the Internet age. It was a time when personal computers began to enter homes, and the excitement surrounding the World Wide Web was beginning to build. The United States was in the midst of a period of economic growth, having recovered from the recession earlier in the decade. People were optimistic, businesses were flourishing, and the country was experiencing a wave of technological innovation. Yet, amidst all these global changes, there was still something timeless about the humble 5-cent piece. The nickel had been in circulation for over a century, and it was a coin that represented both the everyday American and the nation's rich history. The design of the nickel, featuring Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse, was familiar to all. It had been in use since 1938, and despite the passage of decades, it was still very much a part of everyday life. But in 1995, something interesting happened. While most people went about their business, unaware of any particular significance of that year's nickel, a small number of 1,995 nickels would later stand out. These coins weren't defined by any dramatic minting error or catastrophic flaw, yet they would go on to captivate the world of collectors for a very specific reason. The design of the 1995 5-cent coin remained largely unchanged from previous years. On the obverse, as always, you could find a profile of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, looking to the left. Jefferson was not just a historical figure, but a symbol of American ideals, freedom, democracy, and the founding principles of the nation. His image, designed by the artist Felix Schlag, had been in use on the nickel for decades, becoming an iconic representation of the American spirit. On the reverse of the coin was an image of Monticello, Jefferson's home in Virginia. Monticello was a symbol of Jefferson's accomplishments, both as a statesman and a plantation owner. The design of Monticello had been in place since 1938, adding a sense of continuity and tradition to the nickel. But while the design remained familiar, the story behind the 1995 nickel is anything but ordinary. Minting errors, while not unusual in the world of coin production, tend to draw the attention of collectors. It's in these small mistakes, imperfections, or rare variations that a coin can become valuable. While the 1995 5-cent coin wasn't a major error coin in the traditional sense, it was nevertheless a coin that would go on to attract the attention of numismatists. You see, in 1995, a specific set of circumstances led to some subtle, but important, variations in the minting process that made certain 1995 nickels far rarer than others. The key to the coin's desirability came down to a detail that most people wouldn't have thought twice about: the quality of the coin strike. In the world of coinage, a strike refers to the process of pressing a design onto a coin blank using a die. If a coin is struck properly, the design will be clear and crisp, with distinct lines and features. However, if there is an issue with the die or the striking process, the coin can come out with imperfections, such as weak strikes, uneven design, or even doubling. In 1995, there was an interesting phenomenon with the nickels that were produced that year. A number of 1,995 nickels were struck with a form of die where that resulted in a subtle, but significant, error. In particular, some of the 1995 nickels were struck with what's known as a double die error. This meant that the die used to stamp the coins had been misaligned, leading to a doubling effect on certain elements of the coin's design. Most noticeably, the word Liberty and the date, 1995, on some of the coins exhibited a visible doubling, where the design appeared to be imprinted twice, slightly offset. This doubling wasn't a huge mistake, but for collectors, it was an indication of a rare and fascinating variation. Coins with these kinds of subtle errors are considered incredibly valuable, as they represent a misstep in the minting process, a small mistake that can turn a simple coin into a prized collectible. Double die errors are highly sought after by coin collectors because they represent a rare occurrence in the minting process, one that can't easily be replicated. And while double die errors have appeared on many different denominations over the years, the 1995 nickel stands out due to its relatively high quality and the rarity of these specific errors. It wasn't long before coin collectors began to notice the 1995 double die nickels, and the excitement began to build. As with all rare coins, the more collectors who became aware of the error, the higher the demand grew. People scoured coin rolls, visited dealers, and attended numismatic conventions in search of these elusive, doubled coins. Some of these nickels were found in circulation, while others surfaced in old coin collections or were purchased from those who had held onto them for years without realizing their value. The value of these coins began to rise steadily as collectors became more aware of the error and sought to add them to their collections. In fact, the 1995 double die nickel became one of the most sought-after coins of the 1990s and beyond. What had started as a simple 5-cent coin had now become a treasure. Coins that once would have been exchanged for a nickel were suddenly commanding far higher prices in the market, but what about the current value of these coins today? How much is a 1995 double die nickel worth now, decades after it was first minted? The answer might surprise you. Due to the rarity of the coin, the demand among collectors, and the intrigue surrounding its minting error, some 1995 double die nickels are now worth as much as $118,000. Yes, you read that correctly, $118,000 for a 5-cent coin that was initially worth just 5 cents. So, how did this happen? It all comes down to the rarity of the coin, the nature of the double die error, and the growing appeal of rare coins in the collector's market. What started as a minor imperfection in the minting process became a highly coveted piece of American history, with some of these nickels reaching incredible prices at auctions and private sales. In the world of numismatics, the story of the 1995 USA 5-cent coin serves as a reminder of how something as seemingly insignificant as a small mistake in the minting process can turn an everyday coin into a prized and valuable collectible. So, the next time you come across a 1995 nickel, or any coin for that matter, take a moment to examine it closely. You might just have a rare treasure in your hands, waiting to reveal its true value. And as for the 1995 double die nickel, its journey from being an ordinary coin in circulation to becoming a $118,000 collectible is a testament to the fascinating and unpredictable nature of the world of coin collecting. Who knows? Maybe the next coin you come across will be the next hidden treasure in the world of numismatics. In the year 2000, the United States was stepping into a new millennium. The world was gripped by the excitement of the Y2K phenomenon, where people anxiously awaited the turn of the century, uncertain if technology would hold up as the clocks ticked from December 31, 1999, to January 1, 2000. It was a time of uncertainty and optimism, and yet, amid all the anticipation, a small coin, a seemingly ordinary 5-cent piece, was quietly minted and began its journey through history. Little did anyone know that this simple nickel would go on to capture the imagination of collectors, become a symbol of the new millennium, and ultimately fetch an astounding $110,000 in today's market. To understand how this unassuming 2000 USA 5-cent coin would rise to prominence, we first need to look at the broader context of the time. The turn of the century marked a momentous occasion in world history, but it also came with its own set of challenges and societal changes. The economy was on a steady path of growth, particularly in the late 1990s, thanks in part to the dot-com boom. Technology was advancing at a rapid pace, and the internet was beginning to reshape industries, lifestyles, and the way people connected with one another. For many, the year 2000 was a fresh start. People embraced the sense of a new beginning, but for others, it was a time of reflection and remembrance, as they looked back on the 20th century and its incredible technological, social, and political revolutions. In the midst of all this change, the United States Mint was busy at work, continuing its mission to produce the nation's currency, including the 5-cent coin, known as the nickel. In 2000, the design of the nickel remained largely unchanged from the previous decades. The obverse of the coin featured the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, looking to the left. Jefferson had been the face of the nickel for more than 6 decades, a steady presence on the coin. The reverse depicted his Virginia home, Monticello, as it had since 1938. While these designs had become iconic, symbolizing the country's values and history, the 2005-cent coin would prove to be special, not because of its design, but because of the way it was struck and the rarity that would arise as a result. When you think of a coin's design, you might imagine the work of an artist who meticulously creates a piece of art that will go on to be used by millions. But what most people don't realize is that coins are produced through a rigorous minting process that involves not just design, but also precision, timing, and, of course, some room for error. And that's where the story of the 2000 nickel becomes interesting. The 2000 USA 5-cent coin wasn't part of a special commemorative series, nor was it created to mark a significant historical event like many other coins produced in the 20th century. Yet, it would go on to become one of the most fascinating modern-era coins for collectors. While most 2000 nickels were produced to the usual high standards, there was a small group of them that became highly sought after, thanks to a unique combination of factors that contributed to their rarity. This rarity, combined with the growing interest in collecting coins from the 21st century, would help drive the coin's value to remarkable heights. The story of the 2000 nickel's rise to prominence begins with a subtle, yet impactful, mistake in the minting process. While the majority of these coins were struck without issue, a limited number of them were produced with a feature that was incredibly rare: a die error. A die error occurs when the metal die used to strike the coin either wears down, is damaged, or experiences some other irregularity that causes the coin to be struck with a defect. This can result in unusual features, doubling of the design, or even misalignments that make a coin stand out from the rest. In the case of the 2000 nickel, certain specimens were struck with an error known as clashed dies. A clashed die error happens when the two dies that are used to strike the coin make contact with each other without a coin being between them. This causes parts of the design from one die to be imprinted onto the opposite die. When the coin is struck, it can carry those imprints, creating a unique, and often highly collectible, feature. In the case of the 2000 nickel, this error resulted in faint, but noticeable, traces of the reverse design, Monticello, appearing on the obverse side of the coin, specifically in the area around Jefferson's portrait. This type of error is relatively rare, and finding a coin with such a flaw is always exciting for collectors. But in the case of the 2000 nickel, the error wasn't immediately recognized for its significance. In fact, most people who received these coins probably didn't think much of them at the time. They simply went about their day, using them in transactions without ever realizing that they were holding a rare treasure. It was only over time, as the coin-collecting community grew more vigilant, that the true value of these misstruck nickels began to surface. As word spread among collectors that the 2000 nickel had this unique clashed die error, the demand for these coins skyrocketed. Numismatists, those who study and collect coins, recognized the rarity of the error, and soon, collectors across the country were hunting for these nickels, carefully checking their change to see if they had one of the elusive clashed die specimens. What had once been an ordinary 5-cent coin had now become a sought-after piece of numismatic history, but it wasn't just the clashed die error that contributed to the 2000 nickel's appeal. As with many coins, the allure of rarity was key. The 2000 nickel became one of those coins that represented a snapshot of history. It was a coin minted at the turn of the millennium, during a time of great technological change and cultural shifts. Collectors saw it as a coin that captured the essence of an era, one that had not yet fully revealed its place in history. And this connection to the year 2000 only added to the coin's allure. As the years passed and the coin-collecting world continued to grow, the value of the 2000 USA 5-cent coin began to rise steadily. People began to realize that these nickels, especially those with the clashed die error, were not just interesting curiosities but could be valuable assets. The rarity of the clashed die error, combined with the historical significance of the coin, helped to drive demand among collectors, which, in turn, increased the price of these nickels. Fast forward to today, and the 2000 USA 5-cent coin has become one of the most valuable nickels in the market. While the majority of 2000 nickels are still worth just 5 cents, those with the clash die error have reached remarkable prices. A single coin, once worth a mere nickel, can now fetch an astonishing $110,000. This incredible value is a testament to how rarity, combined with the right circumstances, can elevate an everyday object into a highly coveted collector's item. So, what does this all mean for you? It's a reminder to never overlook the coins in your pocket. You never know when you might come across a rare treasure like the 2000 USA 5-cent coin. With its subtle die error and connection to the turn of the millennium, the 2000 nickel has become a true numismatic gem, one that continues to capture the attention of collectors and investors alike. The next time you're holding a coin, take a closer look. You might just be holding on to the next great discovery, and there you have it, the remarkable rise of the 2000 USA 5-cent coin, from a humble nickel to a coin worth $110,000. It's a perfect example of how the world of coin collecting is full of surprises, and how even the smallest mistakes in the minting process can result in a coin that changes lives.